February 1846. A gray English morning in the marketplace of Nottingham. The four-story Exchange building rose 123 feet along its 11-bay frontage. Its clock mounted high on the facade where every tradesman, merchant, and laborer in the city could read it. A clock that had kept Nottingham on time for over a century. And in that single week, the town council ordered it fitted with a third hand, because the existing two were no longer telling the truth. The clock had first been installed in 1728, a gift from James Woolley, a master clockmaker from the village of Codner, 11 miles to the northwest. Woolley was born around 1695, the son of Samuel Woolley and Abigail Pinegar. He had built his reputation on turret clocks of exceptional precision. He signed his work Wally. When he presented the clock to the Nottingham Corporation, the city repaid him with something no amount of brass or gearing could buy. He was made an honorary burgess of Nottingham, the highest civic honor the town could bestow on a craftsman. The clock stayed on the Exchange for over 100 years. In 1830, time equals 300 milliseconds / John Whitehurst and Son of Derby replaced it with a newer mechanism. Woolley's original was moved to St. Nicholas's Church, where the dial remains to this day. But none of that mattered on the morning the third hand went up. What mattered was a single fact about geography, and what the railways were doing to it. Nottingham sits at a longitude of approximately 1 degree and 9 minutes west of Greenwich. That is not much. On a map of England, it is barely a thumb width. But time is not measured in distance. It is measured in the angle at which sunlight strikes the earth. Every 15 degrees of longitude equals 1 hour of solar time. Nottingham's longitude placed its local noon, the precise moment when the sun reached its highest point in the sky, 4 minutes and 33 seconds later than noon in London. For centuries, that gap had meant nothing. A man could walk from Nottingham to Derby in half a day. By the time he arrived, he adjusted his pocket watch to Derby's local time, which was slightly different again, and nobody questioned it. The sun told each town what time it was. The church bells confirmed it. Time equals 400 milliseconds greater than life moved at the pace of horses. And horses did not care about 4 minutes. The railways changed everything. On November 1, 1840, the Great Western Railway became the first company in Britain to standardize its entire network to a single time. London time, as read at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich. The logic was brutal and simple. A train departing Bristol at 8 o'clock in the morning could cover 120 miles and arrive in London before midday. If Bristol ran on its own time, which was 10 minutes behind London, the passengers would miss their connections by 10 minutes. 10 minutes did not sound like much. But on a network where trains shared single-track sections and passed each other at designated points, 10 minutes was the distance between a scheduled crossing and a collision. By 1844, most of the major railway companies had followed the Great Western's lead. Timetables were printed in London time. Station clocks were set to London time. And then the traveler stepped out of the station and into the town, where the church clock, the Exchange clock, the clock on the Guildhall, every public timepiece still ran on local mean time. Two different realities, separated by a few steps and a doorway. Nottingham experienced this fracture on January 1, 1846, when the Midland Railway adopted London time across all of its stations. The Midland had been formed 2 years earlier. In 1844, through the merger of 3 smaller companies, the Midland Counties Railway, the Birmingham and Derby Junction Railway, and the North Midland Railway. Its network radiated out from Derby, passing through Nottingham on its way north and east. Nottingham's Carrington Street Station, the city's first, had opened in May 1839, By 1846, the Midland was expanding aggressively, pushing lines toward Lincoln and Leicester. And from 1st January of that year, every station clock on the Midland network showed London time. The gap in Nottingham was 4 minutes and 33 seconds. That does not sound like chaos, but consider what it meant in practice. A man finishing his morning business at the Exchange looked up at the town clock, 4 minutes and 33 seconds behind London. He then walked to Carrington Street Station, checked the station clock, and found it. Time equals 300 milliseconds greater than 4 minutes and 33 seconds ahead of where he had just been. He had not moved far. He had not crossed a county line or a river. He had simply walked from one side of the marketplace to the other, and time had jumped. The post office, which operated on London time for its schedules, added a third reference point. A letter posted at what the Exchange clock called 9 o'clock in the morning was, by the post office's reckoning, already 9:04 and 33 seconds. The confusion was not unique to Nottingham. Across England, towns were developing their own solutions to the same problem. In Bristol, the clock on the Exchange had been fitted with a second-minute hand, one tracking local time, the other London time. The difference between them 10 minutes. In Exeter, the dean of the cathedral resisted railway time so fiercely that the city ran on 2 separate systems until November 1852. Watches sold in Exeter in the late 1840s came with 2-minute dials, one for each time. In Oxford, the great clock on Tom Tower at Christ Church was fitted with 2-minute hands as well, one for Oxford time, which ran 5 minutes and 2 seconds behind Greenwich, and one for the rest of the country. Christ Church never fully surrendered. To this day, the bell, Great Tom, chimes its 101 strokes at 9:05 in the evening, which corresponds to 9 o'clock Oxford time. But Nottingham took a step further than any of these cities. In February 1846, the town council did not simply add a second hand to show London time alongside local time. They ordered the Exchange clock fitted with 3 hands. 2 hands tracked the local time of Nottingham, the hour. Hand and 1-minute hand, moving at the pace the sun set for that longitude. The third hand, a separate minute hand, showed London time, the time the Midland Railway and the General Post Office now demanded. 3 hands, 3 times, 1 clock face. A single dial showed the visitor exactly where he stood in the web of conflicting schedules. The local hour, the local minute, and the London minute drifting ahead by 4 minutes and 33 seconds. A permanent reminder that the world Nottingham had lived in, time equals 250 milliseconds greater than for generations was being dismantled, one timetable at a time. The arrangement did not last. It could not. The pressure to standardize was too great, and it came from too many directions at once. The railway companies needed uniform time to run safely. The General Post Office needed it to deliver reliably. The electric telegraph, which began transmitting accurate time signals from Greenwich to railway stations across Britain in 1852, made the old system of local adjustment obsolete overnight. By 1855, the vast majority of public clocks in England, time equals 300 milliseconds / greater than had been set to Greenwich Mean Time. In 1858, a legal case, Curtis v. March, held that local mean time was still technically the official legal time of the land. But the ruling changed nothing in practice. Nobody was setting their clocks to the sun anymore. It took until August 2, 1880, for the government to make it law. The Statutes. Definition of time. Act received royal assent that day. Establishing Greenwich Mean Time as the single legal standard across the island of Great Britain. The patchwork of local times, the 2-handed clocks, the 3-handed clocks. Time equals 350 milliseconds / the confusion of Exeter and Bristol and Nottingham, All of it became, overnight, a legal anachronism. The Nottingham Exchange itself was demolished in 1926 to make way for the current Council House, a neo-Baroque building designed by Thomas Cecil Howitt, opened by the Prince of Wales on 22 May 1929. The Council House clock, cast in 1926 by G&F Cope, runs on Greenwich Mean Time. Its bell, nicknamed Little John, weighs 10.5 tons. Cast in 1928 by John Taylor and Company of Loughborough, it chimes on the hour, precisely, with no ambiguity about what time it is showing. The clock from the 1830 Whitehurst replacement, the one that would have carried the three hands in 1846, was later moved to St. Helen's Church in Trowell in 1927. But the original clock, the one James Woolley gifted to the city in 1728, the one he signed Wally and gave freely in exchange for an honorary burgessship, that clock survived. It was moved to St. Nicholas's Church in 1830 when Whitehurst installed the replacement. Its dial remains on the church tower to this day. And the mechanism itself sits in the Nottingham Industrial Museum at Wollaton Hall, where visitors can see the gears and escapement that kept a city on time for 102 years, before the world decided that one man's time was no longer good enough.